Hey everybody. So, there's no doubt that the St. Louis Blues are having really an abysmal season compared to what everyone thought they would be and what they wanted to be. Um, St. Louis missed the playoffs last year, made a ton of changes in the offseason, and really haven't gotten any better. In fact, they've gotten worse. And now trade rumors about the Blues are absolutely flying right now. Um, there are reports all over the place, a lot of conflicting reports about who's available and who isn't. Um, but some real big names have been mentioned. Alex Pietrangelo, their captain, has been mentioned a lot. Vladimir Tarasenko, and whether or not he's available for trade has been a hot topic the last couple of days. Some people are saying that he is available. Other people are saying that he's not. Um, all I know is St. Louis is absolutely going to be very active as far in on the on the trade market as far as answering and making phone calls go. That doesn't necessarily mean a deal 100% gets done, but it does mean that they're going to be looking at offers and possibly trying to make a deal. It's going to have to be the right deal though. They're not just going to give players away. They need to get a solid return for them to help, try and make the team better. So, I have a list of names here of players who have been really talked about a lot recently as far as the trade market goes, and some of them I do think are probably more likely than others to get traded. Now, I think, well, Darren Dreger was on NBCSN last night talking about the Blues, and he basically said the Blues are open for business. They are very willing to answer and make phone calls. They're on the trade market. They are open for business. However, he said that they don't want, or currently not trying to move younger players, young pieces that they think are going to be part of their core for the future. So he specifically mentioned Jaden Schwartz. I would assume if Jaden Schwartz is not available, then Vlad Tarasenko probably isn't either, but that's not necessarily the case. But apparently the Blues are currently looking to not move core young players. They want to move veteran older guys with big cap hits for their production. So I think Alexander Steen is a guy that they absolutely are more than willing to move. Jay Bomeister, a guy that they're absolutely more than willing to move. Even Pietrangelo, if the right deal is out there, they will move Pietrangelo. I have no doubt about that. What's St. Louis really done with him as captain? When he became captain, what has St. Louis really done? Not much. They missed the playoffs last year. They're going to miss the playoffs most likely again this season. They will move Pietrangelo if they can get a good return for him. Other names thrown out there are Vlad Tarasenko, and there's been a lot of debate going around about whether or not Tarasenko is available or not. Schwartz also. Again, those are young goal scorers that I don't know if St. Louis necessarily wants to move right now. But again, every player has a price. There's no true thing as a untouchable player, I don't think, because I do think every player has a price. If somebody offered the St. Louis Blues, like a grade A prospect and 2 first-round draft picks for Vladimir Tarasenko, it'd be hard for the Blues not to do that deal. I mean, if you're getting basically a sure thing 19, 20-year-old prospect, a sure thing prospect, and 2 first-round draft picks, how do you not do that deal? Especially when you're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. So you don't have that win now mentality because you're not winning now. How do you not do that deal? So I don't know if anyone would offer that much for Tarasenko, who quite frankly hasn't been very good this season. But every player has a price. So to call a player completely off limits is really difficult to do. However, I do think that there are some players that the Blues do not want to move on from. Colton Parayko, his name actually, he's a young defenseman for the Blues, but his name was involved in trade rumors even all this past offseason. So I don't know, even though he's a young up-and-coming player, I don't know if he's necessarily one of these off-limit guys the way that people believe Schwartz is or Tarasenko might be. Parayko could be moved because I think the Blues have been thinking about moving him for months now, maybe even a year. So he has potential to get moved. But I definitely think your most likely Blues players to get moved are Alex Steen, Jay Bouwmeester, or Alex Pietrangelo. I think they're going to try and move on from those guys. Going back to the idea of no player being untouchable, I do think there are a couple of players that St. Louis does not want to move. I think these two really are the future in St. Louis and guys that they should absolutely build around as a 1-2 punch at center, and that is Ryan O'Reilly and Brayden Schenn. If I was St. Louis, I would not touch either of these guys because I think this is your core to build a team for the future, and you can have a very quick turnaround in St. Louis with these two if you build correctly around these two. Ryan O'Reilly has been the Blues' best player this season by far, not even close. He's been outstanding, and while the team has struggled and not really played well at all, not won a lot of games, O'Reilly has been outstanding. If you keep him as your number 1 center and Brayden Schenn as your number 2 center, that is a 1-2 punch down the middle that you can absolutely build around for the future and build around quickly because these aren't just players that are going to be good for years to come. These are win-now players as well. So you can do a very quick turnaround if you get the right players on the wings here. These two are as close to untouchable players as the Blues have, I would think. And if I were the GM of the Blues, I would not be touching either of these guys. This would be my core for the future. This is who I'd be building around. If I were the GM of the Blues, everyone else would be available. Vladimir Tarasenko would be available. He has not been good this year. Jaden Schwartz would be available for the right price. Robbie Fabry would be available. Pat Maroon would be available. Obviously Steen, Bouwmeester, Pietrangelo, these veteran guys with big cap hits, they would all obviously be available. I wouldn't be afraid to trade Parayko. I would be a little more hesitant to trade Joel Edmondson, but like I said, every player has a price. I'd certainly be willing to trade Jake Allen if I could get a goaltender back in return. There are plenty of available players in St. Louis, and I think that if I were GM, there were very few guys I would not want to move. I think every player really has a price and would be moved out for the right deal. And I think in reality in St. Louis, I think Doug Armstrong is more than willing to make some trades this season. He obviously what's happening this year is a massive, massive disappointment, and I wouldn't be surprised to see one, if not two, major trades go down involving the St. Louis Blues, because it's unacceptable. This team not making the playoffs, this team being as bad as they are, is completely unacceptable. So something has to change, and I would not be surprised to see a guy like Pietrangelo moved. Steen and Bouwmeester, I think, are on the block. I mean, I think St. Louis wants those guys out. And even younger players, I think, should be available. I would, if the right deal comes along for Tarasenko, trade him. If the right deal comes along for Schwartz, trade him, because you're not winning with them now. What are they doing to win games for you? You're not winning. So are they really that important? Are they really that untouchable? I don't think so. So if I were running the Blues, I would be very active on the trade market, and I think that there's a lot of debate going around on who is and isn't available. I think there is no debate right now that the Blues are open for business and willing to trade at least some of their players. So we'll see what deals actually get done. I don't know if they're going to wait until the trade deadline, closer to the deadline, or if they're going to try and make moves now and see if they can somewhat salvage this season. Again, we'll have to wait and see. But I do expect some major trades involving the St. Louis Blues this season. So With that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the link to our Patreon and merchandise store are also in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.